Katt Williams dropping some bombshells on a recent interview on Club Shay Shay here on YouTube. It's already racked up almost 10 million views. This is Tony. Hope you're all doing well. And this really fits into a lot of things that we've been talking about on my channel, believe it or not. It's kind of amazing because you can see from a bird's eye view what's really happening when you start to connect, of course, the dots. What's interesting about this interview is Katt Williams did not leave any rock unturned, folks. He was telling you everything, unfiltered. Sit down with the iconic comedian. Journey down memory lane to unleash loads we didn't know we needed to know about, folks. Yes, indeed. He's talking about a number of movies that he was offered and other specials, comedy specials, things like that. Offered, 10, 20, $50 million to do a certain movie, even in some cases, or some special. And he had to turn it down because he didn't want to compromise his values and the things that they were trying to ask for. Like in matter of fact, he tried to work with them. It was really interesting what he was saying. Some of these comedy movies in the past, Katt Williams was saying that he was going to be in that movie Bad Boys, with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. He said Martin Lawrence said to him, "You will be in this movie with me as a cop." And then ultimately later they sat him down for the movie Big Mama. And he said, "I didn't want to dress, of course, like a woman." And he said that was one of the things he didn't want to do. He said also that a lot of these movies, they would put scenes in them. And he was actually able to talk him out of one. There was one movie he was able to talk him out of putting these scenes in these movies, where it, of course, degrades, certain people. And it's not even funny. Like there will be a scene of R-A-P-E, right? And why is that even in a comedy movie? Why would you put that in a comedy movie? It makes literally no sense. He's talking about a number of movies where they would have these scenes in them. And he'd say, like, look, all you got to do is just remove this one scene, and I don't have I'll play the part in this movie. I'll be in this movie. This is a great movie. I just don't like this one scene. And the scene is like, why is it even there? It didn't even have anything to do with comedy. It's the exact opposite antithesis of comedy. Why would they even be there? But they always insisted on it, and they would never hire him, almost never. The one movie they were able to actually get one of the scenes removed. It's just kind of amazing to me. He said almost every time they would just turn him down and just go to the next guy. Whoever is willing to do it. You willing to dress, of course, like, a woman? Okay, you're the guy. You're the guy, right? So he was saying a lot of the stuff. We'll actually play some of the clips from this as we're getting into this video here. I'm going to talk about a lot of things. What he calls out Ricky Smiley, Cedric the Entertainer, and much more. And it ties into so many other things. All this stuff. Once you hear it, I'm going to play the clips. You're going to hear it with your own 2 ears. The fact of the matter is, it ties in, of course, to this, list we're hearing about of recent. Of course, that's coming out. I think you know which one I'm referring to. And it's interesting. It ties into that. It ties into something else I noticed. Hollywood, how it shut down right after a certain movie back in the 4th of July, Independence Day, Sound of Freedom. I talked about how it shut down at that exact moment. It's almost like something spiritual was happening. And this ties into something else we've been talking about. I'm going to put all this together as we get into this video. First, though, I got to mention food supply, 25-year shelf life. Link is in the description, folks. You're going to definitely want to get this. If you have not already, considering all the not so wonderful things going on around us, folks, you're going to definitely want to have this. 4 weeks worth for $177. This is the lowest price I've had in 4 years. 3 months of it's only $530 if you buy 3 of these. Link is in the description for that. Of course, this book here, The Lost Ways, How Your Great-Great-Grandfather Lived Without Electricity, How to Build a Cellar, Do Things Around the House Like they did in the good old days. The fact of the matter is, considering all these WARs that never seem to end over the last year and a half, and seem to be every other day, there's a new one starting. You might want to get this book. Get the printed version. Link is in the description. Of course, also gold and silver. We have Walmart selling gold and silver. They're lowering the amount of costs for it. They're saying that we need to look at this as money once again. So we have some of our representatives putting that out there as well. It's definitely wise to have some if you don't have any already, folks. Link is in the description. Let's get back to the video. So Katt Williams was in that movie Friday After Next. He was talking about how there was a scene in that movie what I mentioned before, RAPE, that. And he said, this is not funny. Why would you have this in a movie like this? It makes literally no sense. But this is something that seemingly is put in all of these movies, whether it's something like that or dressing up, of course, as a woman or something like that. There's always something in these movies that they're trying to put forward. He was able to get them to remove that scene from that movie, and that's one of the few movies he was in. So he said apparently that there's a lot of movies that he was offered that he didn't want to turn them down. They were just because they kept putting these type of scenes in there, and he didn't want to compromise his values over it. He's just like, why are you doing that? Why, it's kind of ridiculous. So you're seeing a lot of that with regards to what he was saying in these interviews. He calls out, like I said, a number of other comedians and says that they were willing to stoop, down to these levels to get these parts. This is what he was saying. And what's interesting is these other people don't actually, at first they made a response. Okay, they made a response, we'll go over it, but they don't deny what he said. That's the funny part. It's really interesting. Nothing that what they said, they never said, you're wrong, I never did this. They didn't deny a word he said. Katt Williams calls out Ricky Smiley, Cedric the Entertainer, Steve Harvey. And this, again, he poked jabs at P. Diddy. And of course, that goes back to TD Jakes, and all that. So this is the year. This year seems to be the time when all this stuff, all this wonderful stuff is coming out, folks, including a wonderful, list as well. All these things are coming out, and he's apparently part of it in doing his own little part. I don't even think it was really intentional. He was just saying the truth, folks. And he talks about Cedric the Entertainer and all these guys, Steve Harvey as well. With Steve Harvey was saying Steve Harvey claimed that he was homeless when he apparently wasn't really homeless, or not homeless in the aspect of what you would think when you think of the word homeless. He said that he was actually making $3,000, I think, a month or something, traveling, sleeping in his car. And this is the time when Steve Harvey was saying he was homeless. This is what Katt Williams said. And Katt Williams mentioned that in reality, Katt Williams literally was homeless for a while. So he was just comparing the homelessness factor, I guess. I don't know. But he said Steve Harvey really wasn't homeless because he was making $3,000 a month. I mean, that doesn't sound very homeless to me, but he didn't have a home. So I guess that is technically homeless, right? No home, you're homeless, right? Even if you got money. So at any rate, so he was saying that, it was interesting. He said a number of things. All right. So what do we have here? So in this thing here, he was on Club Shay Shay. This guy's a former NFL player. He was interviewing him, talking about fellow comedians, saying that they were lying in an attempt to rewrite history. And again, like I just mentioned with Steve Harvey, what he had done. Of course, none of these people deny what he said, which is really funny. And he was talking about some of these people having to stoop, down to get parts in movies and things like that. They didn't deny it. They talked about Money Mike and Friday After Next. This is what I was referring to with the certain scene that had to be removed for him to be part of the movie. But like I said, we'll get into more. Let's get into some of these clips, actually. Let's do this first. All right, so this is an example. So he said something not so nice about Ricky Smiley. It said he had stolen one of his parts or something like that. But Ricky Smiley says he wishes him nothing but the best. So that was his response. Yeah, I mean, he didn't really say he stole the part, but, it wasn't exactly, super nice, but it wasn't really bad either. Now, Cedric the Entertainer, he said he stole his joke. Katt Williams said he straight up stole his joke. And this was like super obvious because he said it was on BET a number of times. It was literally part of their intro on some of their intro on something on BET. His joke was, and he said it also was running on a number of other things as well. I think in 2018, and he stole this joke from him and used it as his closing joke. It was like his best joke. He stole his best joke and used it for his own closing joke. Right? So Cedric didn't deny this. He just said it was all tough talk. That's all he said. He didn't even deny that he didn't steal his joke. So I thought that was kind of funny. So it seems like everything he said, no one's denying what he said. Even Kevin Hart, he said something about Kevin Hart, and he says he needs to get that anger up out of him. So I think everything he said was true. Now let's listen to some of these clips. These are pretty ridiculous. Some of these clips, we're going to get through a number of them here, and you're going to see how this kind of fits in with the other stuff being talked about right now. You'll see what I'm saying. Let's play this here.
Katt, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, but you know, some of these people...
Martin tried to put me in my first dress. When he had to go on his hiatus, he tell me, Katt, when I come back, I need you. You my young partner. You my brother in comedy. When I come back, just promise me that my next movie, it'll be me and you. We gonna do it together. We gonna do some buddy cop shit.
Yeah, you said about the cops here.
I said, Martin, you got my motherfucking word, my nigga. Go do what you got to do. When you come back, I'm in your movie. Don't trip. I don't need to see the script or nothing. You know, we get in that office and this fool pull out Big Mama's House too.
Right. And then, of course, this comes over to the dress and everything. It's kind of interesting.
I almost died. And I got to read this script in front of all these good white people.
Okay. So he says that. You get that's sort of a repeat of what I already said. Let's just play this other clip here.
That's how I got in this position.
I sure hope I have a Club Shay Shay after this year.
It's going to be in a dimension it's never been.
Yeah, it's going to be...
the greatest thing floating in 2024. Mark the words. No way. In a whole different realm of business. Oprah coming next.
Obviously said a few too many things on this show. Now let's play one of these things here. You can see his reaction that he's said way too many things on the show. So he's actually kind of concerned if he's even going to have a show after this. And he's got a big channel, so...
Dave Chappelle walked away from $50 million.
People say that. He lost $50 million. No, that's not even close to what happened to this dude. Now, I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times. 4 times. Just to protect my integrity and that virgin hole I was telling you about. Right.
Okay, you notice what he said there. Virgin, hole. Just think about it and you'll understand what he's trying to say there, folks. He's clearly indicating that to get a part in some of these movies, he had to do something. Yeah, I don't need to explain it. If you can't understand, I'm sorry, I can't help you, okay? And check the comments, maybe somebody will explain it to you. But yeah, so he's saying that this seemed to be part of the idea for getting these really big roles, at least in the case of his situation with a lot of movies that were offered to him, is that he would have to do something, folks. Bend, over kind of idea, okay? And he says he's not into that, obviously, as you can tell. He says, why can't you just have a normal movie without these certain types of scenes in them? Right? And then on top of that, having to do these other things to get even into the movie itself in some cases. So... and this, of course, echoes back to what we've now learned about some of these directors, some of these movie producers, that they required certain things from actors and actresses. We've heard about it with various infamous people, right? And I hope I don't need to name any names here, but I'm sure you can think of a few. One guy had, of course, an island. I think you know who I'm referring to. And they're talking about, of course, a list with regards to him as well. That's supposed to be coming out soon here, but it seems to be keeps getting delayed and things like that for some strange reason. I wonder why. But like I said, there's so many of these different types of clips where he's talking about some of these things that are happening while he's being offered movie deals and comedy specials and things like that.
Do something in the back door to get the part. And so what he's saying is,
oh, actually, this is, I thought I already, okay, so this is a different part. I must have put it in the wrong place or something. Let's see, what do we got here?
Virgin hole I was telling you about. Right. Because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no.
Okay. So you see, did you hear that? Apparently, P. Diddy's part of this. Or he's just talking. I mean, obviously, this is the latest story, so this is why he's talking about this. But this is what we're talking about. So he's saying that this is part of getting some of these deals, folks. And we heard all about his parties. We also heard about TD Jakes going to these parties. So it's really interesting. We're getting a little bit some light on some of these things. It seems to be coming out very slowly. And as I mentioned before, and I have a lot more of this we're actually going to be going over as we go along here, folks. But as I mentioned before, we had this movie that came out on the 4th of July, Sound You Know of Freedom. I'm sure you've heard of this movie. I bet you a lot of you have seen the movie. I found it to be very interesting that this movie is about some of this in some respects. I mean, it's not exactly, but you know what I'm saying. It's in the same sort of spectrum, right? And at the time when that movie came out, that's exactly when Hollywood went on strike. The exact same time. And I found that to be not a coincidence. I pointed that out on video. I was like, look, this is not a coincidence. And this ties into a number of predictions people have been saying. There's a guy named Mark, Taylor. He's been saying he's had a number of predictions come true over the last 4 or 5 years. And this is one of his latest predictions, is about those over the church, those over things like Hollywood, the GOV. We're going to start seeing this stuff now. We're going to start understanding what's really going on. And now we're starting at the beginning of this year. We're seeing it already. The year of the dragon. And as I talked about in the last video, a lot of people just assume a dragon is bad. Dragons aren't necessarily bad. You have red dragons, you have white dragons, as is in the legend of King Arthur and Merlin, which led into, if you understand history, we talked all about this. He had a dream or some sort of vision or something of a red dragon being defeated by a white dragon. And the red dragon was on the crest of Wales, on their flag, on their emblem, and he and King Arthur would happen to be from Wales. And the Saxons had the white dragon. So the Saxons took over for 1,000 years. It was around 500 AD this happened, 500 AD to 1500 AD. The Saxons took over, which is the time of the white dragon. Before that was the time of the red dragon. As you see in Revelation, you have the red dragon, obviously not a good one. The white dragon was the Middle Ages. You see what I'm saying? We've been under the red dragon for 500 years. We're coming up on the last on a time of change, and we could be changing from the red back to the white. And perhaps some of the stuff we're seeing here is an indication of that. We're in the year of the dragon. So what this also could mean is that this year is going to be quite turbulent as well. It's already looking interesting. We're having fireworks already, folks. But the fact of the matter is, he gets into a number of things here. And I'm going to actually be playing more clips. I'll play them over on my other channel, God Rules 2. But I'm going to get into also TD Jakes and actually a number of other things with K-Love Radio, John Cooper, and a number of other things, including Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel and someone who's his friend. We're going to get into a lot of other people as well. Okay. Also, I'm going to be getting into a number of things over on my business channel, Sale Daddy 1. I'm going to be getting into a number of things going on with regards to AI chatbots. What they're saying about this year is kind of amazing, and it really matches kind of what I'm thinking is going to happen this year. It's kind of uncanny how some of these chatbots are predicting things in an uncanny manner to be correct. I personally think it's going to be very close to what it's saying. It talks about expanding of potential WAR, problems with the economy. It talks about AI taking over jobs. It talks about, and this is AI saying this. This is an AI predicting AI is going to take more jobs, which is kind of funny. But also on top of that, it talks about it influencing things like that are going to happen at the end of this year. Influencing people to, of course, pick a different, person at the end of this year, Prez, for example. It's actually kind of funny how accurate I think. I mean, it's just like straight up what a normal person would think. But of course, these days you're not supposed to say these things, right? You're not supposed to say these things, of course, folks. Obviously, also we have more big companies set to collapse in 2024. Industry experts warn. This is from what is this from Microsoft? Yeah. So here we have they're talking about financial difficulties for a number of big companies. And I think it's kind of interesting thinking about it. I was talking about, we're seeing something we saw in this movie, Idiocracy. If you ever saw that movie, in the end, there's one company, Home Depot, I think it was, right? Home Depot is like the only company left. And then, like, you go inside and it's just like this colossal sized building that's like 50 times bigger than a normal Walmart even. And we're actually seeing things like this starting to happen in a sense because McDonald's is growing and expanding while Burger King and all the other restaurants are shrinking. Okay, so it's kind of strange. Like, there might only be literally McDonald's left with like $100 Big Macs and robots handing you those. You know what I mean? Like, what is that the future we got, folks? Is that really what we're going to be seeing? AI girlfriends and $100 Big Macs and stuff like that. I don't know. But it is kind of interesting looking at all these things. Like I said, I'm going to be getting into this over my business channel more. But you can see here the amount of money due to the Fed. This is from the website FRED. As you can see here, it's liabilities and capital liabilities, earnings, remittances due to the U.S. Treasury. This is how much money is due to the U.S. Treasury. Okay? It's in the hundreds of billions. Look, it was above the line all the way until August 30th, basically about September 2022. And then all of a sudden, actually it was not even September, it was August. End of August, and then all of a sudden it just started catering. And now it's it's literally in the hundreds of billions now. Hundreds of billions in losses for the Fed right now. And of course, also on top of that, there is an escalation of layoffs. 164,000 private sector jobs were created in December. Really interesting. But we're seeing an escalation now in layoffs. All of a sudden, we're seeing job numbers. We're seeing job offerings dry up. And I'm going to be getting into that. It's kind of interesting. You have these positive numbers, but then you also have negative numbers. And let me show you something that kind of encapsulates the whole thing. Look at this. This is from, so we have very low unemployment right now. Everyone's employed. Sounds great, right? Wow, everyone's employed. This is a good economy. Check this out. U.S. unemployment rates by year. 1929, extremely low unemployment rate, 3.2%. Notable factor in that year is a massive market crash which caused the Great Depression the same year. So we're essentially in a year kind of like 1929 right now. And as you can see, you have multiple years of low, very bad unemployment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it actually gets worse again. 8, 9, 10. You can see, look at this. 11, 12. It takes 12 years to get over it. You're to Pearl Harbor when you get to it. So, and this correlates with something I've shown before. It comes down, if you look at the inflation graphs from 1966 to 82 and compare it to 2013 till now, we have the exact same wave function for inflation, almost perfect, following it. And if you follow it farther on, it indicates 8 or 9 years more of inflation, which would reflect what we're seeing here in this unemployment rate chart, that we're just at the start of this. This is just the beginning, folks. This is what I'm trying to get at. So I get into more detail about all that and much more over on my other channel, Sale That I Wanted. But I'm kind of wondering what some of you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.